So, lessons learned from the first video. Talk a bit less, show a bit more of the guitar during the talking, show the settings of the pickups during playing. I could do that. And with the pros and cons maybe, because you're talking about the pros but not so much about the cons, and there's always cons. Ha! Episode number 2. So I guess you found your way back to my shed, right? And that is such a great thing. Thank you for tuning in. So again, I brought a killer guitar with me. Lessons learned from episode 1. I'll try and do better. By the way, the guitar is not that one, though a sibling. I will tell you more about that one later on in the show. Is this a show? Without further ado, let's get this show on the road, this show in the shed. You know, let's get this shed on the road. I mean, let's go. The brand I'm talking about today is 3 brands in 4 years' time, because they were smart enough to name it after one of the most famous American car brands all time, which wasn't that smart, I guess. And after the introduction of the Chevy guitars, Chevy cars asked them friendly to change the name, and they did. So it was changed to Cheri with an R, and then after a year or so it was changed to Cheri with an I instead of a Y. Weird. And the production time of these guitars is pretty short. I think it's 4 years. The guitar I brought with me today is a Cheri, so it's one of the second series of guitars. And the urban myth is that the Chevy guitars were the brand on full strength, and with the Cheri with the Y, the second brand was to finish the supply of good wood they had, to finish that. And then they changed to Cheri, and the Cheri with the I guitars aren't that great. So focus on the first 2, the Chevys and the Cheris. Bit less of me, bit more of the guitar. You hate it or you love it, right? We'll work it top down. We'll start here. Simple but fine tuners. String trees with rollers, super nice. A roller nut, super nice. This is a maple neck, and it's a one-piece maple neck. There's no scarf joint in this. There is no problem with the scarf joint, of course, with a good built scarf joint, but without it, well, it's not just nice. There's of course it's 2 pieces if you count in the skunk stripe for the truss rod, sorry. And there's a lovely rosewood fingerboard on this with 22 super well manufactured frets. And it's a lovely flat C-shaped neck. Simple one ply pickguard. The body, this body, I think because of the weight, I think this is a maple body. And in this case it's 2 pieces or 3 pieces maybe. I think 3 pieces of maple. And they put this maple veneer on the top and the back. And we'll talk about that later on. Then it's the electronics. The stuff they use for this guitar is actually pretty good. So they put in a brilliant high quality switch. I did change the volume pots, I think. And the trem bridge, as said, the trem is 100% Gotoh trem with the bearings under each string. Super nice trem system. The pickups are a bit weird. The pickups look single coil, but they are not. They're mini humbuckers. Maybe they were looking at the lace sensor pickups a little, try to imitate that, but the lace sensors are a bit better. These pickups, the good thing about these pickups is that they're dead quiet. But there's something weird about the tone of these things. Sometimes I love it. Sometimes you use it with a little distortion or a little overdrive and fuzz-like distortion, and they are brilliant. You get a bit modern overdrive sound, but they can be dull as well. Take a look at the back cavity for the springs of the trem system. This is a bolt-on neck with a small adjustment screw if you want to set the angle of the neck, which is nice. And this I put in myself, but I can't really get it to work. So I pushed it back, I moved it back. I think that's it. So these weird 90s guitars now are pretty vintage, right? And the materials they used for these guitars were extremely great. If you use decent wood, the wood will, and mind you, you will have to take care of the instrument. So look for a guitar that is well taken care of and even played, because also the playing makes the wood more resonant. But these are vintage guitars with proper materials, aged 30 years. Can't get any better. This guitar is not a Squier Stratocaster. This guitar is a Cort 115. So before Cort started their own G series, maybe you've seen them, they used their own body shape and their own headstock design. But before they had the G series, they produced these Stratocaster copies. I bought this 115 for this channel, but when I bought it, the action was a bit high. There was a slight bow in the neck, and I thought, never mind, I will fix it when I come home. I will tweak the truss rod. Unfortunately, the truss rod was appeared to be broken. I couldn't fix it. But I did find this gorgeous maple, this gorgeous flamed maple Squier neck, which fits it really nicely. I cannot do a decent review on this guitar anymore because I made this Frankenstein of it. Same thing, this is a hefty guitar. This is also a maple body. I fell in love with the flamed body. But in its original form, it had a roller nut, like the Chevy. Same two stud trem system, like the Chevy. Exactly the same details in finishing, exactly the same details in neck joint. These are clearly sisters from the same manufacturer, produced at the same time. For me, that's the ultimate proof that the Chevy line was built in the Cort factory. But the thing is, where Cort uses its own brandless trem system without the roller nuts and uses, sorry ladies, and used a roller nut of less quality than the Gotoh roller nut on the Chevy guitars. The thing is, the hardware on these guitars is just way better. Better electronics, better hardware, maybe even a bit finer looking pieces of wood. So I guess you know what my choice would be, right? That's why this nice guitar was back there all the time. So I hope I did a bit better, a bit less talking maybe, a bit more of the guitar. And now I promised you pros and cons. The pros we talked about. The brilliant materials, well-constructed guitars, fine hardware, fine electronics. The cons. These are still budget-made guitars. Although most of the saving comes from cheap labor, of course, there are some things in the manufacturing you can do to make this a bit cheaper. And one thing you can do is make a cavity hole the size of Jupiter here. So that's what they did. You can either route holes around the pickups that you're going to put in, or you just route the entire space so you can later on change your guitar to a humbucker guitar or humbucker single. And that's what they did on these guitars. They make a huge hole right here. It makes the guitar a bit lighter, which is not a bad thing, but you also take away material and it makes the guitar a bit more fragile, I guess. And you can see it on this guitar. So all the power of the strings pulling it pushes this little rod a little to the front. And would there be more material there, this wouldn't have happened. And I glued a small piece of wood in order to hopefully strengthen that part of the guitar. Another thing, this is a detail, but while we're at it, the joint of the neck is quite accurate, but it's a bit off, and you can see it. The distance between the low E string and the high E string and the edge of the neck, it's just a bit off. These things show the quality of the builders, maybe the experience of the builders, or maybe just the speed on which these guitars were produced. So then there's this funny thing about this guitar, and I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure. What you do when you produce a guitar like this is that you glue the pieces of wood together for the body, in this case 2 or 3 pieces, and then you glue the veneers on the top and the back, right? So the veneers are the finish. When this is done, you will then put the wood into the CNC router, and this will cut out the cavities for the electronics, and it will router the shape of the guitar. The only thing you have to be aware of is that you put on top the best looking veneer. So you get the best looking veneer on the front of the guitar. And I'm pretty sure they put it the wrong way in. So the veneer on the back is by far the better looking veneer. So I guess that's it. I guess that's episode number 2. It was super nice having you back in the shed, and I will be back in the shed as well with the third guitar. Maybe it's from the 90s and maybe it's from the zeros, because I now have 2 90s guitars, right? So maybe I should do the zeros one. And the same thing as always, if you want to share your brilliant sleeper guitar with me, let me know. I will try and track it down for you. I think that's it. But before I go, we don't need another effect. We just need the effect of a little more practice. Thank you. See you next time.